Millions of years ago, before 1996, Aku Aku and Uka Uka were masked brothers of the ancient times. They harvested but sometime Uka Uka betrays his brother and gets locked up in the temple prison. So many years ago, a few before 1996, Dr. Neo Periwinkle Cortex was born to a family of circus clowns. And then later, they tattooed the letter N on his forehead for nerd. Years later, Cortex attended high school at the age of 6 with his colleague, Dr. Brio. A fatal explosion only killed the school, only Cortex and Brio surviving. Years later, Cortex attended the Academy of Evil at the age of 8 with Dr. Engine and again Dr. Brio. Many years later, in the year 1996, somewhere southeast of Australia lie 3 little islands, teeming with wildlife. On one of these islands resides Dr. Neo Cortex and Dr. Brio. Along with him is trying to create an animal army known as the Cortex Commandos to achieve world domination, leading him to create a peaceful Bandicoot soldier known as Crashworth Cortex I, otherwise known as Crash Bandicoot. A peaceful Bandicoot is slated to become, the Army's general. Dr. Brio has created a machine known as the Evolver Array, which is capable of giving animals anthropomorphic traits. Dr. Cortex eventually subjects these creatures to the Cortex Vortex, a device designed to brainwash animals and make them obedient to him, despite Dr. Brio's warning that the vortex was unstable. Dr. Cortex rushed the newly evolved Crash into the vortex, which rejected him. Crash then seizes the opportunity to escape, with Cortex in pursuit. He eventually breaks through a window and escapes by falling into the sea. Cortex orders that the second Bandicoot he prepared for the Cortex Vortex, Tana, Crash's girlfriend. Crash washes up on the beach of his home island and sets out to save Tana before Cortex can use the vortex on her. There, Crash meets a floating tiki mask known as Aku Aku, who provides Crash with assistance in form of masks that will take damage for him. Cortex decides that Crash must be stopped before he can return for Tana and sends out his best henchman after him. Cortex's plan is foiled when Crash reaches his toxic waste factory, wherein Cortex's machinery is powered and it shuts down during a battle with Cortex's top minion, Pinstripe Potteru, otherwise known as Don Pinstripely Potterati. Crash soon enters Cortex's sinister castle, where he confronts Brio in his lab room. The Mad Doctor drinks a potion and turns himself into a monster pounding on the ground, which causes the castle to go up in flames. His plans ruined, Cortex faces Crash atop his airship. Crash eventually gains the upper hand and manages to destroy Cortex's hoverboard, causing the Doctor to seemingly fall to his death. Crash is finally reunited with his beloved Tana. The couple take the airship and fly into the sunset. Cortex falls from his hoverboard and lands within a mine, where he discovers a large crystal and has a flash of inspiration. Months later, Tawna ventures out into the world with other female bandicoots who were created by various scientists from failed experiments, and Tawna goes with them, and notably Isabella, Ami, Megumi, and Liz, and Tawna promises Crash that she will be back soon, and he promises her too. 1 year later, he is seen in a space station being told by his new assistant, Dr. Nitrous Engine, also known as Dr. Engine, that to harness the Master Crystal's power, he will require an additional 25 slave crystals. These are scattered across the Earth. Since Cortex does not have any friends left on the surface, he decides he needs to find an archenemy. Crash and his sister Coco Bandicoot are relaxing on Insanity Beach when the battery runs out on Coco's laptop. She asks Crash to go find her a new one, in which he does. While he's on the way, he gets abducted and kidnapped by Cortex and is sent to a warp room where he is persuaded that Cortex has decided to turn over a new leaf and is trying to save the planet against an upcoming threat. He convinces Crash to collect the crystals so that he can use their power to align planets to prevent the Earth from facing certain doom. Crash then sets off on this new quest for Cortex, unknowingly helping him achieve his goals for world domination. Throughout his quest, Crash is contacted by his sister Coco, who continuously searching into Cortex's scheme and trying to figure out what Cortex is really using the crystals for. So he joins up with her brother after the battle with Ripperoo, one of Cortex's henchmen. He is also contacted by Dr. Nitrous Brio, Cortex's disgruntled former assistant. He tells Crash that if he truly wants to save the world, he must collect the gems instead of crystals. Brio plans to use the gems to destroy Cortex once and for all. He is also Crash's primary opposing force, claiming to use all his strength to prevent him from gathering the crystals. Brio recruits Ripperoo, who has become extremely intelligent but is still insane, to destroy Crash, but he is defeated. Brio also creates and sends out new villains, like the sword-swinging Komodo brothers and the muscle-bound Tiny Tiger, but they fail to stop Crash. Cortex later demands to hand his current amount of crystals over to Engine. But to his dismay, he finds out that the Marsupial has defeated Engine. At the end, when all the crystals are collected, Coco reveals that Cortex is actually intends to harness the force of the crystals to turn every single creature on Earth into Cortex's mindless slaves with his new and improved Cortex Vortex. Crash finally defeats Cortex once again, banishing him deep into space, but leaves his space station operational. After Crash has gathered all 42 gems, Brio uses the gems to power up a laser beam that destroys the station, leaving it in space until it crashes into a mysterious temple on Earth. As a result of this, large chunks of debris from the Cortex Vortex plummet down to the Earth and crash into an ancient monument. When the smoke clears, an entirely, flies off into the sky, being set free. Back on N-Sane Island, Crash, Coco, Polar, and Aku Aku are relaxing after foiling Cortex's plans, when all of a sudden, evil laughter suddenly rings through the air, and the weather turns gray. Aku Aku appears shaken and urges everyone to retreat inside. He reveals that his brother, the evil Uka Uka, has been freed from his temple prison, and that great evil has come. Dr. Cortex, having survived the events of the previous game, is then seen kneeling and cowering before Uka Uka, who is berating him for his past failures. Cortex pleads his case, blaming Crash for all of his failures, but Uka Uka is now out of patience. There is no other power source left on the planet, as the crystals and gems have been used by Crash, Coco, and Dr. Brio to destroy the Cortex Vortex. However, as Cortex's failure had inadvertently set him free, he decides to give him one last chance to prove himself as an act of being generous. Uka Uka then introduces Cortex to Dr. Troopy, who is the self-proclaimed master of time and the creator of the time twister that the trio are currently standing in, who will be working with Cortex and ensure that he gets it right this time. They hatch a plan to go back to collect the crystals from the original points of time. Inside the Bandicoot house, Aku Aku tells the story of how many eons ago he managed to lock up Uka Uka in an underground prison, the same one seen earlier in the opening. Now that he is free, he must be stopped at all costs. Crash, Coco, and Aku Aku then travel to the Time Twister, where their adventure begins. After defeating Tiny Tiger and Dingodile, Crash then faces off Dr. Troopy. The Doctor used his time-bending powers to try to defeat the Bandicoot, but in the end, he was defeated without Troopy's care of the Time Twister, knowing it could do what would come as a threat, as said by Cortex. Once Crash and Coco have defeated everyone in their way and have collected all the crystals and gems, Crash and Aku Aku battle Cortex and Uka Uka in the core of the Time Twister. When both villains are defeated, the Time Twister starts to implode and opens up a massive warp portal, which takes Cortex and Troopy and Uka Uka to the prehistoric past, turning the former two into babies who fight over Uka Uka. Meanwhile, Crash and the others escape just in time and go back to the Bandicoot house to enjoy the snow that has fallen while they were at the Time Twister. Uka Uka attempts to liberate himself and Doctors Neo, Cortex, and Troopy from their prison in the past. His latest effort rips open a hole in the fabric of space and time and causes him to pass out. Cortex and Troopy swiftly escape, abandoning Uka Uka, and discover that the rift they use links the universe to the rest of the multiverse, and decide to make use of it to conquer all dimensions. To ensure success, the pair create a generator capable of opening other space-time rifts and recruit aid from Doctors Engine and Brio to provide an army of anticipation of their enemies in intervenes. Meanwhile, Aku Aku, Uku Uku's older twin brother, senses the disturbance in space and time, and quickly rushes Crash to Insanity Peak. Upon arriving, he comes across Lani Loli, whom Aku Aku recognizes as one of the quantum masks. 4 ancient witch doctor masks that have great power over space and time, and who would only appear if something had opened up the multiverse. Lani Loli spots a rift and suspect there is trouble, leading to Crash and his sister Coco agreeing to follow him across the multiverse and find the other quantum masks, while combating the chaos Cortex is creating. During their adventures, the pair meet an alternate version of Tana, Crash's old girlfriend, who offers her help while undertaking an adventure of her own. At the same time, Dingodile, who was recently retired from villainy to run his own restaurant, finds himself caught up in the chaos when his business is burned down by a rival restaurant and he is sucked into another dimension by a special disruption. While Dingodile does not interact with Crash's adventure at first, his actions inadvertently assist Crash and Coco at various points in space and time. Crash and Coco find 2 more of the quantum masks, named Akano and Kapunawa, and defeat Engine and Brio. After facing and defeating Cortex, Entropy betrays him and reveals that he and his new partner, later revealed to be an alternate version of Entropy from Tana's universe, are going to remake the multiverse and subsequently erase Cortex, Crash, Coco, and the masks from existence. A furious Cortex agrees to team up with the Bandicoots, and the 3 rescue the last quantum mask, Ika Ika, and eventually meet up with Dingodile and Tana. Together, the team successfully track down and defeat the 2 Troopies and quantum masks, destroy the rift generator, sealing all the space-time disruptions. However, after taking a laboratory trip to the futuristic city, Cortex betrays the group and kidnaps Kapunawa, using her to travel back in time before the events of his first bid for world domination, in an attempt to avert Crash's creation. Ultimately, he is unsuccessful in both convincing his past self to abandon the experiment and repelling the present Crash, Coco, and Aku Aku, who followed him from the future, as the quantum masks banish him to the ends of the universe. The past Cortex proceeds with the experiment, preparing to brainwash the past Crash with the Cortex Vortex. The present Crash accidentally destroys the Vortex's power source, causing it to malfunction, and failed to brainwash his past self, thereby ensuring his own creation. Dingodile rebuilds and reopens his diner. Cortex relaxes on a beach and enjoys the peace and quiet. And Crash, Coco, Tana, Aku Aku, and the Quantum Mask play video games at their home on Insanity Island, following an epilogue narrated by Crash detailing the fates and whereabouts of the game's characters. Cortex's relaxation is interrupted by the sudden appearance of Uka Uka. Somewhere outside of Earth's orbit, Uka Uka holds a bad guy convention in a new space station that currently acts as base for Dr. Neocortex and his minions Engine, Entropy, Tiny Tiger, and Crocodingo. Uka Uka denounces the groups as imbeciles, fools, nincompoops, and questions their ability to do anything right, unveiling a line graph moving heavily downward. Uka Uka announces that the group's track record for spreading evil is pathetic. Dr. Cortex proclaims that means their innocence and that Crash Bandicoot is really at fault. Irritated, Uka Uka declares that he will not let anything stand in the way of evil, especially not a brainless orange marsupial. He concludes that Crash must be eliminated. As he speaks, Tiny attempts to clutch a hologram of Crash Bandicoot that has disappeared over the middle of the table, only to have it disappear in the hand. Dr. Engine nervously reminds Uka Uka that Crash always finds a way to defeat them and contemplates that perhaps Crash is merely too capable for them. However, Uka Uka at this point will not take excuses and threatens the group into thinking of one good plan on the spot. As Cortex disgruntledly lamentates his situation, Dr. Nefarious Troopy recalls a secret weapon Cortex has been working on in his laboratory. Although Cortex denies anything of that sort, Dr. Engine does not catch on and reminds Cortex that Entropy is referring to the super secret weapon Cortex was laboring over day and night since the last time Crash defeated him. In Crash 4, it's about time. Ignoring all of Cortex's non-vocal attempts to tell them to keep quiet on the subject, Uka Uka impatiently ends the discussion and asks the group what they have planned. With no choice at hand, Cortex decides to reveal the existence of his genetically engineered weapon, which he claims possesses unbelievable strength. However, he reports that the weapon is missing the power source. In a scene only present Meanwhile, Crash, Coco, and are jet skiing near Insanity Beach as Pure and Aku Aku soak up the sun's rays. Suddenly, they are all startled by a loud rumble which draws their attention to an erupting volcano in the distance. Clouds begin to flood the sky, and Aku Aku seems to suspect something. Coco warns Crash about an incoming tidal wave, which sweeps them both onto the shore with the others. Aku Aku immediately blames Uka Uka for the strange weather occurrences and disappears to find out what he is planning. Aku Aku arrives at the temple in the middle of hyperspace where Uka Uka has been waiting for him. Aku Aku demands him to reveal his schemes, but Uka Uka claims just some old familiar faces dropping by for a visit, at which this point Rocco, Wawa, Pyro, and Lolo appear, right in front of Aku Aku. Aku Aku is shocked and reminds him of the chaos the masks are capable of, but Uka Uka mocks him. Then Aku Aku tells him that their release could spell disaster for them all. Pyro orders an attack on Aku Aku, who managed to escape to tell Crash and Coco. Elsewhere, Crash is drying off after his encounter with the tidal wave while Coco is on her laptop. Aku Aku suddenly bursts inside and tells them about the elementals, instructing them to collect the crystals, to imprison the masks, and save the Earth. Coco delivers a status update on the VR hub system she'd been working on, announcing that it is nearly complete. Aku Aku happily decides that it is time to test it out in order to retrieve the crystals. The group enters a workshop where Coco's device is located, and with a laptop, a few keys on her laptop, Coco activates the VR hub system, allowing Crash to collect 25 crystals and fight Cortex and Crunch. Cortex bemoans his defeat. Then Uka Uka furiously attempts to attack the Cortex Vortex, but misses. And inadvertently releases Crunch from his mind control by damaging the machinery in the space station. Crunch wakes up dazed, but no time to get his revenge on Cortex, as Uka Uka's blunder causes a critical power overload that could destroy them all. Cortex suggests that they use the escape pods, but Uka Uka is angry at Cortex for ducking out of the way. Meanwhile, Coco arrives in the space station just in time to pick up Crash, Aku Aku, and Crunch. Later, Crunch expresses his gratitude to Crash, Coco, and Aku Aku for believing in him. Coco then wonders if that will be the last time they'll see Cortex and Uka Uka, which Aku Aku has a hard time believing. Elsewhere, having blasted off in an escape pod and landed in the middle of an icy wasteland, Cortex is chased around on an iceberg by Uka Uka, declaring that he will get his revenge on Crash. 3 years have passed since the events of Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, and a frozen Cortex and Uka Uka wash up on Insanity Beach. As Coco innocently chases a butterfly, Cortex knocks her out with his ray gun and disguises as her, to lure an unaware Crash through Jungle Bungle. Eventually, the path stops and quote-unquote Coco reveals herself. Cortex reveals that he has organized gathering like a birthday party, except the exact opposite. With Crash's past enemies at party guests, Cortex quickly starts handing out the presents by throwing bombs and shooting at him. Crash beats him once again and orders Dr. Engine to roll out his newest creation, Mecha Bandicoot, a giant robotic Crash lookalike. Ultimately, Crash beats the robot up, and the resulting explosion knocks Crash and Cortex into the cave, while Dingodile and Ripperoo leave to get lunch. Infuriated at losing to Crash again, Cortex charges at Crash, knocking the duo into a hole, leading to a cavern. And as the brawl makes its way through the underground mine, Cortex stumbles across a power crystal. Shortly after claiming it, a giant drill rises from the ground, separating Cortex and the crystal from Crash. The drill opens up, and a horde of ant-like enemies flood out, taking crates into the drill and occasionally attacking Crash. Crash stops the drill and meets up with Cortex, commanding Crash to back away from his treasure, or he'll go crystal crazy. Not listening, Crash and Cortex both grab the crystal and fight for it, helping them navigate through the cave. Eventually, the duo are chased by the aforementioned drill to the surface. Once outside, two parrots who call themselves the Evil Twins appear and proclaim that they are going to destroy the island. Cortex makes fun of them initially, but to show how serious they are, they pull Cortex's brain out of his head using their psychic powers. Cortex flees in terror with his brain in his hands. Crash eventually finds Cortex again, who pleads for help. He states how he envies the simple life of the tribe's folk, the noble boar and the humble bumblebee, only to be swarmed by the bees. Cortex, obviously to any danger, goes on a mad dash through the woods because of the bees. Crash is able to help him avoid various traps along the way until Cortex is captured by Papu Papu. Crash makes his way upriver and rescues Cortex, who is tied to a totem pole with a power crystal on the top. Crash grabs the power crystal. After escaping from the tribesmen and reuniting with Cortex, Crash meets up with a local farmer emu named Farmer Ernest. Farmer Ernest offers Crash a power crystal if Crash can clear all the worms out of his nearby Wumpa orchard. Cortex shoots Farmer Ernest in response and takes the power crystal, unable to get past his land. They are forced to get rid of the worms anyway, so they can use the Wumpa trees to reach the tops of N-Sane Mountain. After passing through the farm, Crash and Cortex encounter the Evil Twins again. Revealing they are from the 10th dimension, they bring a totem god to life, and to destroy Crash and Cortex. The duo manage to defeat it as the Evil Twins leave. The information the twins reveal give Cortex an idea, and he announces that their next destination to be Cortex's iceberg lab. Crash and Cortex eventually arrive at their destination. The key to the lab, however, doesn't work, much to Cortex's frustration, so the two are forced to go a long way round, up to the iceberg it is situated on. The two stumble across Uka Uka, who is frozen in a sheet of ice, surprised to see such an unlikely alliance, as he transforms into an ice creature and tries to squish the pair of them together, only to be roasted by Crash and Cortex. Uka Uka tries to leave after the fight, only to be stopped by Aku Aku, who informs him of the Evil Twins' plans. Before proposing to team up themselves, Uka Uka, who insists that destroying the world is his job, accepts. Together again, the Mask Brothers travel to the 10th dimension to confront the Evil Twins themselves. Crash and Cortex arrive inside the lab at long last, but are interrupted by the Evil Twins, who have defeated Aku Aku and Uka Uka. They reveal that they knew Cortex from long ago, claiming that he ruined their lives, and accidentally reveal that they also have a large supply of treasure. When Aku Aku and Uka Uka recover, they ask Cortex who the Evil Twins are, but he does not know. Aku Aku considers handing Cortex over to the Evil Twins, but Cortex reluctantly forms the truth with his nemesis. Cortex then shows Crash the Psychotron, a teleportation device which they can use to travel to the 10th dimension and defeat the evil. On the way, they find a power crystal. They eventually land on brainwashed Dingledale's cabin. Crash ventures into the battleship and eventually finds another power crystal and battles engine in his airborne crow's nest in the process. Engine uses a missile launcher and some TNT crates to fight Crash, but he is tricked into destroying the platform, and he and Crash are stranded on. Choopy and Brio have heard about the treasure and ordered Crash to tell them more about it. As usual, Crash remains silent. Choopy then orders Brio to drink a potion that turns him into a giant, somewhat frog-like mutant. Both Choopy and Brio battle Crash, but Crash defeats Choopy. Brio body slams the iceberg, launching Crash into the air and sending him flying back to Cortex's lab. Crash returns to the Psychotron and delivers the crystals to Cortex. At that moment, Coco appears, believing that Cortex has kidnapped Crash. Believing that Cortex has kidnapped Crash, she kicks him into the control panel, causing the Psychotron to malfunction. It shoots a beam that stuns Coco out for a second of time and destroys the two power crystals Cortex was holding. The Psychotron will have to be repaired. If they want to use it, only one person can fix it, Cortex's niece, Nina. Using the airship, they set course for Madame Amberly's Academy of Evil. Cortex makes his way through the halls. After recovering another power crystal, he reaches Nina's bedroom and asks Nina to show him what she's learned from school. Nina obliges by going through the rooftops. Cortex carries on before he meets up with the headmistress, Madame Amberly. The two fight, but despite Amberly's best efforts, Cortex wins. After the fight, he meets up with Crash and they all reach the airship. On the airship, Cortex finally remembers his past with the evil twins. It is revealed that while he was just a child and a student of the Academy of Evil, his first experiment was a prototype Evolvo Ray. Evil uses twin pet parrots, Victor and Moritz, as test subjects. At the end of the experiment, Victor and Moritz were nowhere to be found. Curious to what happened to them, he never saw them again and quickly forgot about them. Back at the iceberg lab, Nina and Cortex fix the machine and venture to a new dimension. In the 10th dimension, Cortex is seen hugging what he thinks is Crash, but is actually none other than evil Crash. The vicious animal then kidnaps Nina. Cortex and Crash begin to chase after them. At the end, Cortex, Nina, and Crash find the evil twins' hideout. In the treasure chamber deep their domain, they find Choopy, Brio, and Engine, who claim they all found the treasure first. But it belongs to none other than Spyro the Dragon, who proceeds to burn the doctors, but survive. Our three heroes reach Victor and Moritz, and after a brief exchange of taunts, Cortex tricks them into going into their cage. After one heck of a battle, which this is classic controller networks gameplay of this, they arrive at Evil Crash's house, and he just eats them up to death. Yup. And then Cortex tries to get rid of Crash for the final time, and then he accidentally lands into Crash's head. And then Coco gasps, and Nina says, "Huh?" And then Cortex is surrounded by dancing Crashes. Yeah, pure nightmare fuel for Cortex. And then Crash smiles. Following Twinsanity, an alien nitrous oxide who returns is plotting to take over the universe by turning the planet into a parking lot. And then it's up to Crash, Coco, and one of the other characters to save the day once and for all. And after winning 16 trophies and 4 keys from Pinstripe, Papu Papu, Komodo Joe, and of course Ripperoo. And after getting all 4 keys, all 5 gems, and 18 relics, Either Crash or Coco face Oxide once and for all. After beating him in a race, Oxide returns to the Gamma Quadrant, and he is out of here for good. And Crash and Coco celebrate by dancing. And here's where Crash Team Racing takes place after. This is where Nitro Kart begins. Crash, Coco, Cortex, and the rest get kidnapped by Emperor Velo the 27th, ruler of the galaxy. If he wins, then Earth will be destroyed. If he loses, however, then Earth will be left alone. And Team Bandicoot are greeted with 4 keys, and so does Team Cortex later on. And then, after collecting 3 trophies, Team Bandicoot are greeted to Crunk, and later on Team Cortex as well. And after beating Crunk and getting a key, Crash offers him his yo-yo, and then he gets tangled up. I found that funny. And then Cortex decides that if he can conquer a measly planet, he can conquer Terra as well. And Crunk is just pissed at this. So yeah. And after getting all the goodies, and then they arrive at Baron. And after getting 3 more trophies, Team Cortex, Team Bandicoot are introduced to Nash, the shark, who wants to race for the fate of the Earth. And when Team Bandicoot wins, he demands his key back, and then Coco hacks him to hypersleep. Yup. And then Nash demands Cortex to give him his key back, and then Velo tells him to get lost, which he does. And then many goodies later, many CTR CNK tokens and relics later, they are entering in Phenomena, where they get 3 more trophies, are introduced to Norm, in which Team Cortex is the same as well. And then after beating him and getting yet another key, Big Norm tells them that they did good out there, as well as Crunch tells him the same. And Small Norm is a bit jealous, a bit ignorant at this, but Cortex calls him a filthy clown after honoring him. Congratulations. And then he says, "Why are you off getting me a clown with your big head and your stupid springy hair?" Ha ha ha. Yeah, I get that funny too. And then after many CNK and relics later, they enter Techne, and then after getting the last 3 trophies, they introduce Geary, and then when Geary loses, he cleans up the entire stadium, including Crash or Tiny. And then later Tiny, yeah. Crash equals Cortex and Tiny equals Crunch, yeah. And Coco and Engine equal each other, yep. And then Velo demands that he could challenge the world's greatest driver himself, that they can challenge the world's best driver himself, and that he never loses. And then after getting all the gems and the rest of the CNK tokens and relics, they are up for a challenge. I usually do this before beating Velo on each team. So, after beating Velo, which will take, honestly, however, who knows when, Velo explodes on both cutscenes, and then real Velo reveals himself, and he gives Crash his planet, but then Crash refuses and gives him back his scepter. And then they are back home again. Crash, Coco, Crunch, and Polar. Yep, and so is Aku Aku, as a matter of fact. And then, after exploding, real Velo exposes himself and demands his scepter back. But Cortex refuses, and then Tiny picks him up, and real Velo says it's too big for him anyways, and they can keep it. And then the jewelry piece falls, and Cortex, Engine, and Tiny, and Uka Uka appear in terror. And then Tiny picks up the scepter, raises it, and they bow, and the Terrian apes bowed to him.
How many times must you be
After
told?
Nitro Kart,
Cannot
Uka
defeat
Uka and Aku Aku settle an argument on which good or evil prevails. However, they decide to go for a battle, a contest, good against evil.
This
Yup.
bickering can go on no
And they
longer.
decide to
We
be
must
Crash,
resolve this
Coco,
once and for
Cortex,
all.
and more of Cortex's goons on his side, making it 6 players rather than equally. However, Aku Aku demands that they must have
Uka
equal
Uka,
sides,
this is not
4
a fair
against 4.
contest.
So
You have
Uka
too
Uka
many
hands
players.
over Tiny and
If your
Dingle to
confidence in
Aku
evil
Aku.
is so great,
And
you
then
can
the
win
challenge
with equal
begins.
sides.
Yup.
You must
And after
surrender two
defeating
of your team.
Papu Papu, who dies, but then survives under the smashed rock, like
Let
King
the
Louie
games
did in the
begin.
live-action movie of Jungle Book, survived, and then
Well
after
done.
defeating the
You have completed the
Bearminator,
challenges that have been set
who
for you in this
explodes
to
and
progress to
lands
the
on an
next set of
iceberg
games,
for some
you
reason,
must defeat
and then
the
after
mighty Papu
defeating
Papu.
the Komodo brothers, who explode in a tank and then are shot
You
away
are
to
progressing
an
very
unknown
well. More challenges lie
distant-
ahead in the next
distant
warp room. Before I can
piece of
safely
Earth.
hide the crystals you have won.
and defeating Oxide, and who explodes and goes away in a hyperspace galaxy in his home planet. Aku Aku and Crash and Coco, of course, and the others win all the crystals to take home with, and Uka Uka throws a temper tantrum on how he lost once again, along with Cortex and Brio on to gather him. And then Aku Aku decides to hide the crystals to hype into a safe place that he can take home with Crash and Coco and Dingle Dial, obviously. Now that Tiny is on the good side and is obviously a good character nowadays, along with alternate Tana and Tana, which is Crash's girlfriend back on planet Earth, living in a house away from Crash, Crunch, and Coco, of course, which explains the pink house in Crash of the Titans. Aku Aku sucks Uka Uka down into hyperspace, and that would explain why he didn't appear in Tag Team Racing. And speaking of which, this is where it begins after Bash ends. So, Chicken Stew introduced the Von Clutch's Motor World. Also, Von Clutch, along with Willy Wampa Cheeks and Pasadena Opossum, to decide before the park shuts down. And of course, Crash, Coco, and the company crash land into the theme park, as obviously. Yep. So yeah, and quote, after being chased down by the villains, Crash, Coco, and the villains and Crunch crash into the theme park, and then Cortex demands the deed to the amusement enterprise, and with no questions asked. And then they enter the theme park, and after racing many times and getting all 5 power gems, Coco wonders who's behind all this, and of course Willy Wonka reveals himself as the culprit. And then he gets away trying to escape in a rocket ship, and after 3 more races and more power crystals, they stop Willy Wonka. Crunch grabs him by the nose, and Cortex obviously vaporizes him into melted liquid. Yup. And then Cortex, Nina, and Engine try to shoot the heroes, but Crunch shields with a metal floor, and then Crash throws the chicken into Cortex's hover ship. And then Cortex, Nina, and Engine get away until they meet again in Crash of the Titans. And yeah, Crash and Crunch obviously save the day. And then, after sucking more liquid in Crash, the power gem comes out of his nose and then goes back into Von Clutch. Yup. And then Crash gets away in a car after trying to after smacking Von Clutch on the back, causing his power heart gem to fall out of him and then collapses to the ground. Crash gets away in a car after a weak thumbs up from Pasadena, Coco, and Crunch. Yup, who are just confused after Crash abandons them. Yup. Crash aids Coco with a butter recycling device. Dr. Cortex arrives, captures Coco and Aku Aku, and encases Crunch in ice. Crash throws Coco's machine at Cortex's airship, severing the chain holding Aku Aku's cage, which causes the cage to fall into a nearby forest. After Crash rescues Aku Aku, they discover Cortex and Uka Uka are stealing the mojo from a nearby temple and decide to stop them. On reaching the temple, Cortex reveals his plot to use the stolen mojo to create an army of loyal animals, which will be used to build a robot known as the Doominator that will crush Wumpa Island and take over the world after failing to defeat Crash with his Yuctopus robot. Cortex boasts that Crash will never find his base and flies off, leaving Crash and Aku Aku to follow him. At Cortex's base, Uka Uka is upset that Cortex had failed to destroy Crash once again, and replaces him with his niece, Nina Cortex. Despite protests from Cortex, Engine, and Tiny Tiger, Nina has brainwashed Coco and makes her participate in construction of the Doominator. Throughout the course of the game, Crash and Aku Aku interrogate Tiny Tiger, Dr. Engine, and Uka Uka on the whereabouts of Coco, and to which they all tell parts of Nina's plan. They confront Nina Cortex inside the Doominator robot. Nina summons her Arachnina robot and fights Crash. Crash eventually destroys the robot, liberating Coco and disabling the Doominator. The Doominator collapses and barely misses the Bandicoot home at Crunch, sparing much of Wumpa Island. Escaping from the collapsed Doominator, Cortex praises Nina for betraying him and promises to be more evil in the near future, though saying he was still going to spank her stupid. Bandicoots decide that it was time for a celebration, leading Crash to shout his first word in the series, an object of their celebration: pancakes! Sometime after their last adventure, Cortex conceals with an old colleague, Dr. Brio, who has invented the NV, a virtual reality headset powered by a bad mojo that transforms the wearer into a mindless, bloodthirsty creature. Cortex realizes the marketability of the device and has it mass-produced. It is advertised as a personal assistant and entertainment system. and soon arrives at the door of every Wumpa Island inhabitant free of charge. The Bandicoots also receive these helmets, though Crash and Aku Aku are unimpressed. Crash's malfunctions and Aku Aku's doesn't fit. Coco and Crunch are obsessed, however, and long before the devices turn them into slavering beasts. After defeating Coco, Crash, and Aku Aku must travel various locales and settlements across the Wumpa Island to save Crunch and the various mutants they encounter along the way. And they must also track down old enemies that Cortex has either betrayed or abandoned. Engine, Nina, Uka Uka, as well as Dr. Brio, and piece together the story of the MV's creation. Eventually, they discover the source of the helmets in Cortex's space station. There, confront the Doctor himself using Brio's mutation. Cortex transforms himself into a mutant to fight Crash and Coco 2-on-1, but is defeated when Crash and Coco jack him and initiates the station's self-destruct. Cortex escapes in an escape pod, leaving Crash, Coco, and Aku Aku stranded. The ship crash lands on Wumpa Island. Miraculously, the three survive. They happily reunite with Crunch and decide not to clean up any mess that's now piled up in their front yard. And that's the complete Crash Bandicoot N-Sane timeline. Luckily, I also have the Advance trilogy and saga as well, with Titans as well. But yeah, so thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely subscribe if you're new here, and make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, comment, and share as well. So I'll see you all in my next video.
Hit subscribe! And don't forget to press the bell icon, you miserable bandicoots!